This day is a day that God has made. This day is the eve of something miraculous and wonderful, and that is the awakening of the Spirit within each human being, every living creature, every plant, every rock mineral, every drop of the ocean. And I know that this is an absolute connection that has been here, always will be, and is present right now wherever we tread within this world and beyond. And so I know that we gather our hearts, minds, and spirits together as we go into meditation, knowing that God is all there is. We are here together in love and light. There is only good. There is only the perfect good. the beautiful perfection of everything that is unfolding with every breath, every thought, every emotion, every birth of any star, every expansion, everything is already just a thought away. And so today, the thought is that God is ever present, divine spirit, the holy and the sacred, flowing through with tremendous, loving, beautiful energy, connecting everything and everyone, heart, mind, and spirit, hand to hand, smile to smile, eyes aglow with the brilliance of life. I give thanks for this day in which I know that Reverend Natasha speaks words that are so touching to the heart of everyone who listens with an open mind and heart. She is a wisdom giver, and loving and kindness emanates with every word. I'm grateful for the community here, all the people here within this sanctuary and beyond. I am grateful for the technology that can bring us together so we can stretch out above the roof and beyond the walls and across the city and across the world. It is a divine connection. I am grateful for the technology. Thank you, Martin. I'm grateful for the music that comes from within and leaps out, and everybody can join in. This is a day to celebrate who we are and how we are, and that is as beautiful, loving spirits. I call it good, it's the best, and so it is. So now we're going to have a little music. I will not be back.
Welcoming our very own Victoria and Sylvia.
We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are whole. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are home. Holy, Spirit divine, holy, come to me. Holy, feeling love, holy, healing me. Holy, open my heart, holy, allow me to see beauty and love. We are holy, surrounding me. You are holy, holy, holy. 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 You are whole. We are whole. I am whole.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Victoria and Sylvia. Well, if you've been joining us in these past few Sundays, you may know that the theme of this month at Centers for Spiritual Living is wholeness. And as that song so beautifully expressed, we abide in the belief that we are all perfect, whole, and complete. That's one of those catchphrases in religious science. You hear it all the time. And it's easy to wonder, what does that actually mean, right? What does it mean to say we are whole? Does everybody here feel whole? Yay, well, I'm thrilled someone does. I'm going to admit, I sometimes don't feel whole. Right? When you're in the midst of life, when you're in the midst of living through whatever is going on in the busyness of the day, an argument with your spouse, something that's not going well at work, misunderstandings, things that we hear about in the news going on around the world, things do not feel very whole, and they certainly don't feel very perfect or complete. And that's one of the tensions of living that we navigate in our teaching, right? The spiritual truth that we cannot always see at the same time as we are experiencing something very different, or it seems like we're experiencing it very differently. So the topic for today's talk is exploring a little more deeply the idea of wholeness and oneness. And I'm calling that Embodying Oneness, Celebrating Christ Consciousness. So today, on Christmas Eve, we're going to talk about the Christ in Christmas. So the Christ is not just about a radical guy who was born a couple of millennia ago in the Middle East and roamed around the Holy Land. Christ is not the last name of a Galilean woodworker. And it's not a stodgy dogma either. And it's not a formula for saving yourself from eternal damnation. What we understand as Christ is that it's a kind of infinite field of energetic love and law, a gateway through which we can manifest the highest expression of ourselves, of the divine within us. Christ is the anointment of wholeness, and Jesus of Nazareth embodied it. His words teach us that he was able to tap into a certain experience and understanding of his oneness with God, with the divine as he understood it. And it is this feeling, this knowing of fundamental wholeness that allows our natural compassion, our love from for one another to reign. So let's talk a little bit about the language part of it. So on Christmas Eve, right, we are coming together here, and tomorrow we acknowledge the birth of Jesus, who in religious science we acknowledge as a great prophet and teacher, and who many around the world believe to be a savior. He is called the Christ because he was perceived in his time by his people as the embodiment of a Messiah. Right, this was a person whose arrival on the planet was prophesied in the Bible. He would be a descendant of the Davidic line, and he would, his coming would herald the freedom and liberation of the Jewish people in then Palestine. And as you may remember from the history, Jesus was born during the time of the Roman occupation of Palestine, the subjugation of the Jews and everybody else then. And so he was called Messiah, which is a word in Hebrew that means the anointed one. And Christ is a word in Greek that also has a similar meaning, a person who is anointed. That idea had a very specific theological meaning in his time, but it just became a word that was attached to this person, Jesus of Nazareth, right? And eventually, even though some Jewish people recognized him as their Messiah and others did not, eventually the followers of Jesus, Jews and Gentiles alike, became known as Christians, right? And they followed a new religion called Christianity. So what does this have to do with us, people who embrace the philosophy of religious science? The founder of our philosophy, Ernest Holmes, was deeply influenced by the metaphysical interpretation of the teachings of Jesus, right? He did not believe that Jesus represented salvation because he did not accept the idea that we were broken by original sin, which is the disobedience, right, of Adam and Eve at the Garden of Eden at the beginning of creation. Holmes did not believe that we were broken. Therefore, we did not require salvation. What he did believe was that we were disconnected from our experience and understanding of our divinity, and that is the metaphysical meaning of the teaching of Jesus that's so important, excuse me, important for us to understand. So that it is when we connect with this sense of our oneness with God that we experience wholeness. And so to the degree that we can make that connection and maintain that connection, we have a sense of ourselves as whole and therefore as having a kind of agency and ability to be present with our lives and to experience it in a richer and deeper way. So today, as we take this occasion to talk about this fundamental wholeness, we're using this term Christ to just talk about the idea, right? The idea of this consciousness. And I wanted to just highlight the fact that the name of our spiritual community, Om, really refers to that fundamental unity, that wholeness of the universe. So we are members of a center that in its very name acknowledges that unity of the divine and our connection to it. So as many of you know, I'm a person who likes to think about ideas in terms of images. So I wanted to highlight that image and one other one, right, which is the idea of light. And this is a time of year where we talk about the light a lot, right? It is the time of year where we just experienced the shortest day of the year. So now the light is being reborn into our world. That's a profound metaphor. Also a special one to me because I'm a solstice baby. So always happy to be part of that resurgence of light. And that idea of light is very much connected in our experience to the idea of waking up, isn't it, right? We wake up with the sunrise. We have flashes of inspiration or sparks of inspiration, right? We connect that idea of light with understanding, with meaning. So we're going to kind of I'd like to invite you to keep that idea in your own mind and to think about what sorts of images, if any, you connect with the idea of oneness and wholeness and with the idea of understanding. Ernest Holmes said, "The spark which burns at the center of our own soul is caught from the living and eternal flame of spirit." So each one of us has within us, excuse me, I don't know why I'm having a... Okay, started that over. Each one of us has this sense, this spark within us. So just as we often sometimes or often talk about the divine and our relation to it in the metaphor of ocean and drop of water, we can also talk about it in the metaphor of flame or fire and spark. So we are all sparks of that divine, each of us sitting here. And we kindle that flame by really connecting to our own awareness of it and also in others. So the more that we recognize that presence of the divine in each and every person that we engage with, that we encounter, each person here, each person at home, each person that you meet every day, the greater that flame is kindled within us, that understanding and that meaning. And that is how the universe knows us as being whole. So continuing on with this idea of metaphors, in this time, it is in the manger of our own heart, that place within us, where we ignite and renew that sense of love. And whenever that inner Christ, God's perfect idea of us, is recognized, it calls us to an even greater sense of loving. Even as I have loved you, we are called to love, as Jesus said. So Ernest Holmes reminds us to practice the presence of God is to awaken within us the Christ consciousness. Christ is God in the soul of man. Now, some people may feel a little uncomfortable thinking about themselves as Christ, because that is not the way that traditional Christianity represents that relationship, right? Jesus is the exception, right? Not the example. But our teaching approaches the teaching of Jesus in another way. Our teaching affirms that Jesus was an example to which we can all aspire, because he understood his relationship to the divine, and we can do that also. So we live in a spiritual universe that is governed by cause and effect, and deep within us is that presence, that sense of a larger life. Ernest Holmes said, Jesus proclaimed that I am the way and the truth and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. But Jesus was not talking about himself. He was talking about you, about us. Because how can you ever reach God except through your own nature? And that was the example that he was leaving for us, that he was offering us, that we can approach God through our own divine nature, right? That everyone finds that in that, what Holmes liked to call the secret innermost chamber of the heart. I think that's a beautiful image. That innermost chamber within you is where you can find God. You don't have to go, we're delighted you're here, but you don't have to come here to do this, right? There is no special place you have to go and no special way you have to be, except to be there in your heart, looking for what is already there, because you are already whole and you are already one with God. It is just remembering this, remembering that infinite, eternal unity. Thomas Merton the mystic said, Christ is born in us today in order that he may appear to the whole world through us. That's another very fundamental part of our teaching, right? God lives in, as, and through us. And so that it means every time we are acting in the world, whatever we are doing, that is God. Now, I have to admit, when I first encountered this idea, it was a little intimidating. Also, kind of disappointing. I don't always act in the way that I think is very godlike. I don't know about you. But I think that this is also where the idea of grace comes in, right? Because we are perfect, whole, and complete, and yet perfect in the idealized sense. But we can all recognize we're not always acting in alignment with the true spiritual perfection of what we are, because that's our humanity. And that is our spiritual journey, to grow through that, to make that, to reach that greater understanding and make that connection. And to recognize that at the same time that we may feel broken, that we are truly not ever broken, and that we can find our way back to this sense of healing and wholeness by remembering that. As some of you may know, I also work as a chaplain in a hospital. And so I encounter people every day who are dealing with serious illness. And there is no question that their bodies feel broken. And when you're in the hospital, everybody's focused on your body, right? That's their job, and we're glad that they're doing that job. It's an important job. But it's easy to lose your connection with the rest of yourself And it's easy to feel broken there too. And part of what I understand my job there to be is to always see people's wholeness and to help support them in seeing that wholeness again. And when people have been dealing with medical professionals, it's often the sense that they're only seen as their body, right? And I know some of you have had this experience yourself. And so that's part of our mission. So not just mine as a chaplain, but indeed everybody in this room, everybody who's joining us, everybody in the world, part of our spiritual journey and opportunity, should we choose to accept it, is to be the person who that day sees the wholeness in the person you're encountering, right? Albert Einstein once said, "We experience ourselves, our thoughts and feelings, as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness." I really loved that a scientist said this, right? An optical delusion of consciousness. How do we push back against this idea? So I don't know if any of you are familiar with this image. It was made famous by Carl Sagan. He called it the pale blue dot. And if you look really closely, I totally get that it's hard to see it. There's a little dot in that sunbeam. That little dot is the planet Earth. That is an image taken by the Voyager 1 spacecraft in 1990, about 3 billion miles away from Earth. And Sagan spoke about this idea of the pale blue dot and reflecting kind of on the need for humility because of our smallness, right? That in the vastness of the universe, right? Our teeny tiny planet, in the vastness of the universe, for all of the millennia that we have been hanging around and talking about big ideas and fighting about who's right and who's wrong, like sort of what can that really mean when you see our teeny tiny planet in the vastness of space? But part of what I take from this image is the marvel of creation. That on our planet, we have this amazing, we are alive with so much else life, so much of other kinds of life. And that rather than simply our smallness, it is the miracle of being. And for me, this is the basis of that connection. We are all connected, not only in our teeny tiny blue dot, but in the vastness, because that is the divine, is that entirety that can't even begin to be captured by a photograph like this, right? Because it's just a little tiny slice, but it is beyond our imagining. And for me, that is inspiring and miraculous. So I invite you to consider that. Let's see, can I do? Well, Martin, can you give me a hand here? Thank you. So Holmes said, to carry peace, love, and givingness to everyone is the meaning of Christmas. To feel that we are all part of the divine offering is to enter into the spirit of the birth of Christ and the human mind and heart. To feel that we are all a part of the divine offering is to enter into the spirit and the birth of Christ in the human mind and heart. How do we carry peace and love and givingness to everyone? So I came across this story recently. It was a cold December day during the busy holiday season when a woman on a shopping run paused on her rounds and was touched by the sight of an unshaven, homeless man sitting on a park bench. His jacket was threadbare, and he had a paper bag around his neck to keep the cold out. And about that time, a young girl was passing by, and she stopped and she took the scarf from around her neck, and she handed it to the man. This pure and childlike expression is that Christ power within us. It is the choice in the moment to see a person, to see them, right? And that's what we all seek. That's what we all yearn for, to be seen in our wholeness, to be seen in our entirety, to be seen not just as an old body sitting on a chair, right, but a person who yearns to connect and has a need to which we can respond in the moment. That's a choice that we always have. And that expression not only comforted the man, but it transformed the woman who witnessed it, because she made a commitment in that moment not to live her life simply as a spectator, but to wrap other people in compassion and understanding when she had that opportunity. And I think we all have that opportunity, really, every single day. And I don't mean by saying this, you are obligated to do something for every single person that you meet, because, that would be unrealistic and also very difficult. But we have that opportunity, and that's a choice that we can be making. So I want to invite you right now to think about a time when you recognized the Christ, this sense of wholeness in another person, and how it touched your life. So I just invite you to do that for a moment. And now, take a moment to look at your neighbor, to see the Christ in them. And if you are by yourself as you're watching this talk, I invite you to just think about someone that you know, a neighbor, a family member, a friend. And nod or bow to this person to acknowledge that you see that. I want to invite you to make it a point in the coming days of seeing the Christ in everyone you meet. Even someone who up until now you might not have really thought of in that way, right? Someone who you might have a hard time thinking of as holy. Like someone who really annoys you, right? Somebody who you just can't stand. But it's an invitation, just for a moment, to do that. Okay. So Ralph Waldo Emerson summarized oneness and the power of light as its symbol or expression when he wrote, "From within or behind, a light shines through us upon things and makes us aware that we are nothing but that the light is all." This is an image of the sunrise on Thursday. So that was the solstice. The light is all. So this season, I want to invite you to a powerful spiritual practice all year long. To connect daily to your Christ consciousness, to the presence of the divine within yourself, and to express those God qualities, the true nature of your being, every day. Ask yourself, how do I express the divine today? How do I make my interactions with others transformational versus transactional? And one of those ways could be to see the Christ in them, right? So not just, hello, I'd like to pay for this today, or, right? Or whatever the mechanics of your day might be, but just for a moment to see them in their wholeness. In Ernest Holmes' words, allow your divinity to be expressed in the circumference, right? In all the aspects of your life. And I want to close this morning with sharing some words of Reverend Dennis Merritt Jones. This season, may you take time to focus on what matters most in your chosen spiritual tradition, whether religious science or something else, or some combination of lots of things. and honor it with the sacred intention of your time and attention. May you have ample opportunities to witness the divine birth of love in the world each time you see the light of the beloved in the eyes of others, regardless of the path that they have chosen. May you be the light that diffuses the darkness in the lives of those who are isolated in the shadows of their own struggles and sense of hopelessness. May the sacredness of this season of light illumine your way, allowing you to fully see and use the gift of your life in a manner that honors the giver of the gift. May you always remember you are the light of the world, and the world greatly needs the light that you bring. May you realize and embrace how loved you truly are by those around you, as well as by the Infinite One, Spirit, Source, God, whatever you may call it. And may the peace that passes all understanding reside in your heart in this season and forever. Therein live. Thank you. Namaste.